My name is Kevin Gigiano. I'm currently a software engineer. I've been called many different things over the years. I've been doing this since 2004, so 18 years, right? 16 plus almost 2, so 17, right?
Yeah. Perfect. And how did you first become interested in your career?
So when I was little, the original Nintendo came out, the 8-bit gray box, right? And so we were all into that, and I wanted to make my own video games. And so I always knew I wanted to make my own video games. And as I got into high school, there wasn't a lot of computer classes available. My first computer class was Pascal. I took, I think, as a sophomore in high school, but that was really just about it, right? So that's kind of what got me started. So I got a basketball scholarship to go to a junior college, and so that was my first 2 years of college paid for. And I knew at the time that I wanted to, get into computer programming and make my own games still. And I knew I could get a lot of my credits out of the way. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, and so that was kind of what I did. So I just got an associate's in science, and then at the time it was kind of weird because in order to go to a 4-year school at the time, you needed the entire series of calculus, so Calc 1, 2, and 3, to get to become to get a bachelor's degree, right? And it took me not 1, not 2, but 6 attempts at Calc 1 to get a passing grade, right? Now, at the time, I'm playing basketball, I'm chasing girls, I'm working full time, so not a lot of time for me to really focus on school like I should have, but it was a deterrent for me, right? So, long story short, I ended up not going away to use my last 2 years of eligibility, and I stayed close to home, and I went to DeVry, and DeVry only required me to have algebra, right? And so, I was like, all right, cool, let's do this, right? But yeah, it was DeVry was interesting, right? It was a good experience in the sense that it got me the bachelor's degree, but what really helped me, really kind of take it to the next level, was at the time you're in school and you're like, okay, in order for me to get a job, I need to have a degree and I have to have experience. Well, that's a catch-22. How do I actually do that, right? So the first step I took was to get a job in the electronics lab, and that was kind of like me, and it was like a federal work study, and so they basically paid me to kind of help people with their computer issues, hand out equipment, so that was great, right? And then as I became a senior, or maybe it was a junior, I ended up getting an internship with a real company, right? And so it was because of me taking that work study job that I was able to get this internship, and that really kind of launched my career. And it was nothing like I expected, right? So I took a job out of school doing this internship. I was working for an in-house recruiting position, so technical recruiters. So they would collect data, they would mine that data, they'd pull information from it, and it would drive all their business intelligence, right? And so I wrote these programs that would go collect, job postings from Monster and Dice and Yahoo, and we'd pull the information out of that, and then we would go and find candidates from that, as well as people who are looking for jobs. But what was interesting is, I was doing that job probably a year before I had graduated, and none of my other classmates at the time had internships or jobs, right? They were just, whatever. And within 3 months of me working in the field, I was way ahead of everybody else. And I just looked around and I'm like, I don't know how you guys are gonna have jobs after this, and I haven't really stayed in touch with anybody, and I really don't, I'm not sure how successful anybody was. So I got lucky in the sense that, I found an internship, and, I got experience. And however you can do that, that's, you wanna do that. So there's a lot of problem solving involved. I mean, people think, oh, computer programming, you must know rocket science. No, if you know basic logic, being inquisitive, wanting to solve problems, that's something I really like to do. There's an old saying, if you find something that you like to do and you get someone to pay you to do it, you'll never work a day in your life, right? So a lot of times I don't really feel like I'm working, right? I've had a lot of jobs where I was working and I didn't really like it. So waiting tables and stuff like that, I don't want to do that, right? So being a self-starter, things are changing so rapidly that it's hard to really keep up. So being able to go out and teach yourself, like, hey, how do I build a website? Or this person has this need, how do I do that? Well, I don't know, let me go figure it out. So being able to self-teach is super important. If you can't do that, you have no business doing this. You'll want to find something else to do. I mean, that really depends. I mean, my first, oh, wow. Let's see. I started, so my my internship, I was making, I think, $10 an hour, and that was back in what, 2002, 3. Eventually, they hired me out of school, and I was making like 30 grand a year, and I was like, "Whoa, this is awesome!" But I was working just outside Chicago, and so I was pretty naive. I didn't really know, and I couldn't even afford to rent an apartment near where I was actually working. So, I would say nowadays it really depends. Anywhere between 50 to 60 to 70 grand, depending on what kind of degree you got and if you specialize in something. But the sky is the limit, right? And a lot of times, I will tell other people that I work with, or when I mentor somebody or a younger engineer, and I tell them, the limit to what you're going to make is what you will accept, right? Only you can tell other people what you want, right? And the worst they can say is no. And it's important to understand these negotiating things, right? Once you do get a little bit of experience, the only time you're actually really going to make money is when you walk in the door. So that's when you get the job, and the company you're going to work for is going to want to get you for the lowest rate possible, right? So it's a common negotiating tactic, and I think it works pretty well. I don't know if it's common to everybody else, but it works for me. You ask for, you decide, here's what I want, okay? You ask for this, the company's going to try to lowball you back down to what you really want, and hopefully you can settle on that's what you really want, right? And so now there are cases where people might try to counter if you're trying to leave a job, and unfortunately in this industry, like I said, when you walk in the door is when you make the money. So that usually involves leaving somewhere else. And sometimes that company will try to counter and say, hey, I'm going to give you 40, 50 grand more to stay on, right? And you might be like, wow, I'm going to keep that. But you can do the research, but 90% of times, anyone who has accepted a counter, they're gone within the first 2 years. And there's a lot of reasons, right? You've endangered ill will. They don't trust you anymore. Why did you want to leave? And so, I found myself in the same exact situation a couple of years ago, and luckily I didn't take the counter, right? But so you only make money when you walk in the door. The sky's the limit. So there's different fields where you can really make a lot of money. Me personally, there's you could specialize in something. I'm more of a generalist. I'm more of a jack of all trades. So you come to me and say, here's my technical problem, or here's the thing I'm trying to accomplish, and I'll go do that. It doesn't matter if it's, you need custom hardware or software or firmware. It doesn't really matter what it is. I can do it all, right? So being able to be a generalist is going to kind of open a lot of doors for you. I do really well for myself. I probably make more than 90% of my peers, and that's just a testament to me being dedicated to what I do. And a lot of times people ask me, like, what do I do for fun? What I do for fun and what I do for a living are kind of the same thing. So it is what it is. So right now we've all been working from home because of COVID and all that. Generally, I'm in an office with a couple other guys, and we interface on a regular basis. I work for the DoD now. Previously, I've worked a lot in the private sector. There is a lot of differences. In the private sector, if you're a salaried employee, you could potentially work more than 40 hours, so 50, 60 hours a week, and it's like, hey, thank you for lowering your pay, right? And so there's no overtime. Now the DoD is different, right? So they're really strict about you working 40 hours a week, and there are special cases where if you do got to work more than 40 hours, you'll basically be paid straight hours or straight time, right? So if you make, let's just say, I don't know, 50 grand a year, and you divide that by 2,000 hours, and you come up with some rate, and that's how much you're going to make extra per hour. So, but right now I only work 40 because we don't have anything like that, right? Younger people, I would suggest they might be tempted to work hard and extra, and honestly, it's better to take that time and invest in yourself. If you're going to work more than 40 hours, make sure you're getting paid for it. I get up, I'll go check my email. Generally, so we operate, so people in management are always trying to figure out how to squeeze software and technical things into kind of a nice pretty box where it's reliable, and they can kind of guesstimate better. And so we use this methodology called we use Agile. So it's a way of basically planning out your work over 2 week periods or sprints. And so you will kind of take a thing you're trying to do and break it up into different stories or tasks. You'll give these things time, and so within that 2 week sprint, you're trying to accomplish the things you did, right? We use an elevated form of that called SAFe, or Scaled Agile Framework for Enterprises. And so if you have this really large enterprise and you have all these different teams, these agile teams that are running, you will try to kind of bring that into a manageable thing, right? And so that's kind of so we plan out these program increments, which are quarterly, and then we will have 6 sprints within there. It's kind of boring, but so we'll do stand-ups every day where you stand up and say, hey, here's what I'm working on, here are the issues I have, here are the things I've accomplished, or it's kind of a short kind of deal where you kind of and then you kind of get into it during the day and you just work through your work. And for me, I can work anywhere, so I don't necessarily need to ask people stuff, but I can reach out and talk to anybody on my team, or people reach out to me and ask me questions. Time management, for sure. I've gotten better at estimating how long something will take me. So typically, if my first idea is that something will take me, let's just say an hour, right? I will magically multiply by 3. I know that things will happen, even though if it's something easy, right? Stuff happens, and it is what it is, right? Another thing is, and it's more of I'd say, software thing in general, imposter syndrome. So given the rapid pace and change of things, there's always this, at least me personally, I know a lot of people that suffer from this, but always feeling like you're not good enough. So you spend more time trying to make up for what you think you're not good enough at, and before you know it, you're actually way better than everybody else. So it's kind of a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, and you just kind of have to put it aside. Working extra and expecting that will kind of pay off. And I'm not trying to tell people don't work hard, because working hard is important, right? Because I'm a testament to the harder you work, you're going to have a good outcome, right? And I've found the larger, when you work for a company, especially the larger it is, working extra doesn't necessarily equate to recognition or more pay. It just equates to, hey, this guy just did twice the amount of work in a week, right? That's what we can expect from him, right? And so that it becomes an expectation, as opposed to something that you can later go and say, hey, look at all this great stuff I did, can you get a raise? And no, it doesn't work that way. Definitely. I do spend a lot of time doing what I do, and that can cause some friction between me and my wife sometimes. But when we first got together, there are certain things you should talk about. Okay, here, religion, children, and finance. There you go. So when it came to children, we both agreed we wanted children, and we didn't want to send them off to be raised by their people, right? So it was like, okay, I'm going to do the work. You're going to stay home with the kids, and that's the division of labor, right? And being in this career has really, there's no way I could be working, doing what I'm doing, have 4 children, a wife, and have her not work, right? So like, I definitely picked the right career for having a family and kind of being able to have that work-life balance. I really like, I've always enjoyed knowing how things work and, you know, taking things apart as a kid. And so to me, like I'm an extremely creative person. And so, you know, it doesn't really matter what it is, like, you know, your car or your dishwasher, it doesn't really matter. If it's broken, I can fix it right now. With computers and software especially, it's so easy to like, you know, if that's not working, well, let me try this, you know. And what I'm really good at is being wrong. And let me preface that by, as I've gotten into my career, you know, if you believe in quantum mechanics, right, you have a certain number of possible outcomes, right? If you can eliminate all the wrong answers, you'll be left with the right one. And so as I've gone through my career, what I've gotten really good at is quickly eliminating all the wrong answers and being left with the right one. So, you know, when it comes to like, you know, your house, if I go cut a hole in the wall there, it's kind of hard to fix that if I got it wrong. With software or computers, you know, Control Z, Control C, Control V, right? Like cut, copy, paste. It's really easy to, you know, iterate through, trying different things and, you know, finding solutions. I mean, it's only going to expand more. There's a guy that I follow. I read his book a long time ago. His name's Ray Kurzweil. He's a futurist. People think he's nuts, but the guy is spot on about a lot of different things. And you know, he predicts that there's these 3 main technical revolutions that are happening right now. One is artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, and robotics. And so those 3 fields are going to go bananas in the future, right? And we're kind of in the middle of these exponential happenings. And so if you're in technology, then you're in the right place to be. I would say it doesn't really matter, you know, going to a fancy school or not. I mean, I went to DeVry. I mean, in hindsight, I would have wished I would have went to like MIT or something. But like I said, being able to self-teach and figure things out on your own, it's highly valuable. Definitely go, you know, however you can get experience, do it. And like I said, I think I told you earlier, you know, in my mind, the future is programmable. So like if you can, you know, get into anything technical, it'll open so many other doors for you, right? And so like, I would have never imagined I'd be doing what I do now. I mean, it's not exactly what I set out to do, but it's definitely the right place for me, so.